You would think with SEC Media Day going on, there would be a ton of hype around that. That's not really the case. As of right now, the main talking point in college football is Florida State and Clemson and the smoke and buzz surrounding them potentially joining the Big 12 Conference. In today's video, we'll discuss a couple of more reports, one from Brett McMurphy at the Action Network and another one from Jason Scheer and his quote on a Big 12 YouTube channel. Hey, how's it going, everybody? It's RC Maxfield here for the Back to 12 podcast. And listen, yes, we're going to talk a lot about Texas Tech football, men's basketball, and everything in between when it comes to the Red Raiders here on the largest group of Texas Tech fans on YouTube. But don't get it twisted. We're going to be talking about the Big 12 conference realignment, everything going on the gridiron, as well as the hardwood. So if you want to join one of the most interactive Big 12 communities on YouTube, I need you to do three things for me. Like the video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell. All right, let's jump right into this because Brett McMurphy dropped a pretty sizable article over on the Action Network. And if you're not following Brett McMurphy on X, Twitter, whatever the hell you want to call it nowadays, you're doing yourself a disservice if you call yourself a college football fan. But he dropped an article discussing Florida State more so than Clemson and how the Big Ten and SEC are unlikely to add the Seminoles to their conferences. Now, he went on to say this: Florida State likely will not have a spot in the Big Ten or SEC if it's successful in leaving the ACC and the ACC stays intact, sources told the Action Network. There are multiple concerns about adding Florida State, sources went on to say. Those reasons include the fact that it doesn't make much financial sense for either league, and there's no appetite for expansion for either the Big Ten or SEC. Not to mention, Florida State has shown, quote, it's not a good partner. SEC Commissioner Greg Sankey at SEC Media Days in Dallas for, well, at least 1 year before they head back east to Atlanta and conduct their media days at, well, the College Football Hall of Fame there, said, quote, we are focused on R16, period. Okay? 3 SEC presidents recently told Action Network, according to this Brett McMurphy article, that they have no interest in adding Florida State. Remember, it takes 12 of the 16 SEC presidents to, well, vote in favor of adding a school. It's obviously not ideal if you're Florida State in that regard. Also, this in the Brett McMurphy article, the Big Ten also is not interested in adding the Seminoles. Now, it sounds like from everything that we've heard, the Seminoles and Clemson and the Tigers of Clemson, obviously, are kind of like a package deal. I don't know if that's actually the case, but that's kind of the sense that we're getting at this current state of what we know in the realignment talks, right? And as I've said in multiple realignment videos here on the channel, everything is fluid, right? If someone is telling you they know exactly what's going to happen in terms of conference realignment, you need to probably stop listening to them because it's not true. At this point, everything is fluid. These are just the latest rumors and really info that we have regarding potentially the Big 12 expanding more. And listen, we know what Brett Yarmark said out in Vegas at Big 12 Media Days. They're not going to pause. They're going to keep pushing forward. They want to add potentially more teams, saying we're open for business, not only on the financial aspect of it, but potentially adding more universities as well. Now, listen, I just went over the whole spiel of nothing is for certain. There's no doubt about that. That said, though, there is no denying that there is a ton of buzz and ton of smoke right now around the Seminoles and potentially the Tigers landing in the Big 12, because right now, truly no one knows, but there's 3 guys that are talking about it at a very high level that were really ahead of the 8 ball when it came to what happened last year with the Big 12 and them adding the 4 corner schools. Those 3 guys in the national media, and one even more regionalized than the other 2, are Ross Dellinger at Yahoo, Brett McMurphy at Action Network, and then Jason Scheer at Wildcat Authority. Okay, those are the really big 3 that I'm looking for, because those were the 3 that kind of set the tone last year in terms of not false information being put out there, credible sources, and just in the end, they were right? Mostly Jason Scheer. And we're going to get to a quote that he had on a Big 12 podcast here in just a second. But before we do, I asked this question in the last video here on the channel really late, so some of y'all may not have seen it. I want to hear from you guys. Do you even want Florida State and Clemson to join the Big 12? Y for yes, N for no. Let me know down on the pinned comment down below. And while you're down there, you might as well like the video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell. All right, let's get into this Jason Scheer quote from a Big 12 podcast, and it's from John Krutz, his great Big 12 podcast. I actually really enjoy watching him. I think he's informative and very entertaining as well. So if you haven't seen that, the podcast link to his direct quote will be down in the description and comments below. Go show that video some love because it was very, very informative from both the interview perspective and the interviewee. So this is where we're at right now. And I think it's very important to put the tweet back up that I showed on the video that I posted on Sunday from Jason Scheer, where he says, according to sources, there is an internal belief in the Big 12 that Florida State and Clemson are likely to join the conference within the next year or so. Again, going to give you a second to read that. That was at 5:15 p.m. Central Time on Sunday, July 14th. One more time. According to sources, there is an internal belief in the Big 12 that Florida State and Clemson are likely to join the conference within the next year or so. That right there in itself is a bombshell, right? But Scheer doubled down. And to be fair to Scheer, he has the right to do that and really the resume to prove why he can do it, in the sense of he was on top of it when it came to the Four Corner schools last year before anybody else, and people were going at him saying, no, this is fake news, when in the end, he was right. This is what he said on John Krutz's YouTube channel. Again, the link will be down in the description and comments below. He went on to say during this interview at the very end, when he was asked, how high would he rate the likelihood of Clemson and Florida State eventually joining the Big 12? Scheer went on to say, right now, while things are fluid, it's more likely than not. Again, right now, while things are fluid, right? He prefaced that at the beginning of the quote. He then ended it at the end there saying, it's more likely than not that Florida State and Clemson at this current time join the Big 12. That's a bombshell type statement right there. And it's making its way around Big 12 Twitter and really college football Twitter because, again, nothing is for certain right now. We are in the very early stages of potentially Clemson and Florida State going to the Big 12 because there's a legal battle going on in multiple states for these guys in terms of these programs and universities and athletic departments. But this buzz and this smoke, it feels like it's really garnering a lot of attention, and there's a lot of legitimacy now that there's not just one guy saying it, right? There's three guys that have a track record at a national level when it comes to this conference realignment stuff. And again, I do not want to say this is for sure 100% going to happen because I don't think that that's fair at all. We are still very early on in this, but it's interesting hearing this and a lot more buzz and smoke accumulating on the subject. And now we're getting to that stage where it's like, okay, it almost feels like this could be a real possibility if this domino falls to this domino. And there's multiple dominoes to go. There's no doubting that. But nonetheless, bombshell type statement from Scheer, a fantastic article from Brett McMurphy. And again, conference realignment in college football, in the modern college football environment that we live in, seemingly never stops. And the Big 12 is at the forefront of it with the commissioner like Brett Yormark that just absolutely pushes his gas pedal all the way to the floorboard and will not rest until his conference is in the same light of the Big 10 and the SEC. And they're open financially, it sounds like, to multiple avenues, at least looking at them, and they're going to have to get some money to potentially land Florida State and Clemson. But right now, again, Jason Scheer in that quote saying right now things are obviously fluid, but it's more likely than not that Florida State and Clemson at this current moment join the Big 12. Nuts. Just absolutely nuts. Again, one more time before you head out of here, let me know down on the pinned comment below, do you want Florida State and Clemson to join the Big 12? Just a simple Y for yes or in for no. And if you haven't already, be sure to like the video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on that notification bell to join the largest group of Texas Tech fans here on YouTube and one of the most interactive Big 12 communities on YouTube right here in the Back to 12 podcast channel.